we have over 500 plus people who are expected to join in today's very interesting subject. So I could probably do after the COVID, this could be our the first subject that we are talking on testing of smoke detector. We haven't seen anybody in last 2.5 years talking about the testing of smoke detector or the performance of fire alarm system in the building. We have seen, detector is now common in every building. But how do we know that system is working? So today, we will touch upon very important aspect on fire alarm system. That is, how do we know the smoke detectors is working? So we'll wait for a few more seconds. Go ahead and Noracha, Padla. Okay. Can I request? Yeah, go ahead with the small
multi-sensor
introduction.
detectors becoming increasingly popular,
Voice,
the
can you
ability
increase
to
the
test
volume?
each sensor in a fast, compliant manner has become even more important.
Volume
The
is not
rise
there,
of
Lakshmi.
multi-sensors has been recognized within industry codes and standards, which call for each sensor to be tested individually. Testifier, the all-in-one tester, makes this simple. By offering the ability to test smoke, heat, and CO sequentially or simultaneously, Testifier dramatically speeds up the test process, ensures all sensors are functioning as designed and are ready to respond in the event of a fire. As an all-in-one test tool approved by leading detector manufacturers, Testifier takes away the need to carry multiple tools on site and ensures you always have the correct tester to hand, regardless of detector type. The use of non-pressurized capsules makes for easier transportation and storage, whilst the controlled release of smoke and CO means less wastage and ensures detectors are safe from the possibility of contamination. Standout features, including the clearing mode and the ability to test heat sensors up to 100 degrees Celsius, help relieve the frustration of re-alarms and improve productivity on site. With 41% of fire engineers reporting a rise in the number of multi-sensor detectors they are testing and, with industry research proving these detectors help reduce false alarms, the use of multi-sensor detectors is expected to continue rising. Make sure you're prepared.
Yeah. Okay. Let me take this great opportunity to welcome to our guest today from UK, Martin Dibble, our guest who's been in India since last 10 days, is actively participated in the Fire India. He went to Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and now is in my office. I'm very happy to host him in a little office that we have in Bangalore, the lovely weather in Bangalore. Yes, we are best. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, as I was saying, in last 2.5 years, we have done over 90 webinars on various subjects. It could be a fire suppression, it could be electrical safety, be it on HVAC, so many subjects that we have covered, but we never touched upon fire alarm performance. It was always my ambition that we need to have the right people, right guests for us to talk about how do you know the fire alarm does work. When you move around the public areas in any of the building, I don't know how many of you notice if the detectors blinks or does it work. And myself, my name is Dominic. I've been in the industry almost now 36 years. We started selling detector in 1988. when not much of organization or building had fire alarm system. We started selling system sensor detector along with the Apollo detector. The largest consumer those days, the fire alarm system or the smoke detector, was the telecom giant called BSNL those days. So BSNL was the largest consumer of the smoke detector in those days. After the revolution started in India in the telecom and the IT, when the multinationals started coming in India, so people realized that fire alarm is needed. So our National Building Code 2005, which is introduced the fire necessity to have a fire alarm system, changed the landscape of fire alarm market. From since then, the fire alarm is steadily growing. We could probably one of the largest market in the world after US and Europe and China. We are the largest. And those days when we introduced, there are hardly few brands that we had in the market. We had Apollo detector, we had system sensor detector, then we had OCD detector. Today, we have over 26 different brand of detector in the market. We have Taiwanese, we have Chinese, we have Middle East manufacturers, we have European, then we have a North American company selling in India. So I was part of Honeywell, the life safety movement, where we started the manufacturing detector in India. Then I was in the Mircom, introducing Mircom to the market. And finally, I'm in the education area where awareness is something that I feel it is a continuous process that everybody should be aware. So today we are talking about how to test smoke detector. As I said, when you go around the public places in India, if you see the manual call point, either wrapped up with the sellotape, wrapped up or the locked, and you see system, the detectors are working. If sometime a detector is not working for various reason, that could be false alarm, the continuous false alarm that you get in a building. The engineer or the chief engineer are forced to turn off the fire alarm system. When we do audit of the building, when we check, it's very, very ironic, very surprising that why they turn off the fire alarm system. One is the maintenance of the detector not being kept up as it's supposed to be. Second, the manual call point is being pressed quite often in a day, 8 to 10 times, either by the children or by the adult who are quite inquisitive to know what happens if I press the manual call point, because it's very clearly written, press only in emergency. So everybody quite keen to know what happens if I press it. So in the public area, in most of the places, and according to our study, 60 to 65% of the fire alarm system in the country does not work for various reasons. So my guest here, my participants here, when you look up at the detector, see whether it is blinking. When it's blinking green, it works. When the blinking red, it's an alarm condition. So I remember testing of the smoke detector is through agarbatti that we use or a jute. Every time, once in a quarter, when you test the smoke detector, by the end of the year, the detector's color, which is off-white, turns into brown color because we put the smoke inside, the smoke over the detector, the change of the color, the plastic color changes. So it's very important for us. What is the technology today available with us to test the smoke detector? And Mr. Martin Dibble, who represents a detector tester, has been in the market for over many years. So I would like to introduce our a guest today, Mr. Martin Dibble. He joined the Detector Tester in 2005 as an export assistant, helping the export manager to cover the business development administration in Europe, Middle East, and South Asia. Over the course of next 10 years, he developed his role to be more proactively involved in business development and took over the running of customer base in Eastern Europe. A fantastic track record he has. I'm sure the management rewarded him. In 2020, Martin took over the current role as a business development for Asia Pacific region, including territories from Central Asia through subcontinent, East Asia, and Oceania. Martin has been traveling length and breadth of India. I asked him what brings you to India. He says, people across Europe, across the world, they talk about India, how aggressive the market is, how progressive the development that's happening, the smart cities, the smart building. He feels that India could be the largest market in the fire alarm in the near future. That brings him to India. I'm sure after the COVID, it is the first visitor from UK for us in the fire industry. I'm sure he'll quite often come to us and teach us and make sure that every building in our country is working condition and fire alarm does work. Now I welcome our guest, Martin Dibble, to address all the gatherers here. Thank you. Over to Martin.
Thank you very much, Dominic. I appreciate that introduction. And again, thank you to all of you who've joined us here on Zoom this evening. It's really lovely to be able to speak to as many people as possible. And I know that Blue and Grey have done a great job in bringing you all here. So thank you for your attendance, and I hope that you enjoy what I'm about to present for you. So as Dominic said, I am the Business Development Manager for Detector Testers. We're a small manufacturing firm just north of London in the UK. And we've been working in the field of detector test solutions for now about 30 to 35 years. So we have a range of products, of course. That's why I'm mainly here in India, is to talk about product, but also I'm here in India to talk about the awareness of proper fire safety testing and maintenance. Because as in so many countries around the world, and definitely we include European, UK, USA, still there is a greater need for better testing and maintenance practice. So as Dominic mentioned now, I come here to teach. No, it's more I need to come here and learn more about the Indian market, how people test and maintain in India, and what we can do to better support you in the market while you're doing those things. So why else have I come to India? Well, it's to meet and discuss these things with key people and companies. So again, it's great that so many have joined us this evening. It's to get that proper view of the Indian market. It's so easy to make a judgment from thousands of miles away over an email, but to actually see what the market is like, to be actually in market and actually meet the people involved. And then to begin that process of building awareness, educating people as to why testing and maintenance is so necessary. But again, it's to learn as well. So where have I been? Well, as Dominic mentioned, I've been on a whistle-stop tour over the last couple of weeks. I visited Mumbai. I went to Ahmedabad for the Fire India show in Gandhinagar. Then I've also visited Delhi before coming here to Bangalore with, as Dominic said, very beautiful weather, just to see various people, key people in these key cities. And what have I found as I've traveled around? Well, I found that India is a country that is very keen to improve standards. It already has standards in place, particularly with regard to fire and safety. But I can see that this is a country and a market that is very keen to keep improving those standards. There's a great desire amongst people that I've been speaking to make those improvements. And that's fantastic, because that has to be the first step, doesn't it? That desire to get better, to do more. And I see that there is a huge potential in India for better practices And even in the prestigious buildings, some of the prestigious buildings I visited, I'm finding that testing is either not being done or is being done to a very low level. So there is a huge potential as we go forward. Just to give you an idea of sort of how I think India compares to some of the other markets around the world, some that I visit and some that I work with, well, certainly size. The Indian market is one of the most vast markets in anywhere on the planet, only perhaps level with China, which is of course a completely different market with its own challenges. But the Indian market with such huge potential, it really is something that we're interested in. The willingness of the Indian people and the fire professionals to adopt new standards, to adopt new practices, better practices as well. That's something that I've seen. And of course, the standards themselves, the fact that IS 2189 has been not only put in place, but is now being constantly revised along with the National Building Code as well, which can all help to ensure better practice in the future. One thing that I have seen is that perhaps enforcement of these standards and these practices could be better, but I don't think there's a country in the world that can say that they have perfection when it comes to the enforcement of standards, but certainly that's something that's been noted. But also the challenges that the market faces, huge challenges as India builds its infrastructure and builds these lovely, beautiful buildings with inviting businesses from all over the world to come and work here in this country. Well, then the fact that the increased costs are a massive challenge, the awareness of proper fire safety practices, and then the actual practice of good testing and maintenance as well. So there are many, many similarities and many differences in between the Indian market and the other markets where we work. But why really should we be thinking about testing and maintaining fire detectors? Well, the first and most important reason is the fire system is a life safety system. It is there to protect the lives of the people in the buildings. The next reason would be that it's there to protect the building itself. People invest huge sums of money in these really beautiful buildings, and even some of the less beautiful buildings, they still require incredible investment. And if they were to be lost in a fire, well, that could be catastrophic. And of course, another reason that we should be doing testing is for our own reputations. If we want the reputation of being someone who cares about life, about buildings, about professional standards, then, well, it could all be blown out of the water through just one fire incident where you are found to be wanting. And of course, another reason is compliance. Compliance to international standards, to the national standards, and of course to the local standards set out by the various states of India. So why should you use proper test methods, such as the products that I'm about to show you today? Well, one good reason is that they're endorsed by the fire detector manufacturers. They ensure the proper functioning of those detectors and your fire system. They will save you time, they'll save you cost, and it will make it faster and safer for the engineers carrying out the testing to do their work. Compared to perhaps some traditional methods, some that I've been discussing with people this week have been incense sticks, which actually form a barrier around the detector chamber and the detector sensor, causing the detector to not react well, and also non-approved aerosols that are not compatible with smoke or heat or smoke detectors, things that actually could cause damage to the smoke detectors. It's kind of methods that if we carried them out, it would actually probably be better that we didn't carry out a test, because we're doing more harm than good. So what are our products? What are the solutions? Well, if I just share the screen with you, then I'll be able to show you this presentation. And again, it's just a very brief presentation regarding our products and the way that we do business. So if you bear with me. So we are Detector Testers, as I mentioned. We're a local business in the UK, but we're a global leader in the field of smoke detector, heat detector, CO, fire detector testing. We're based in the UK. Our headquarters is just north of London, but we have staff working with our partner company in the USA. We also have business development management based in Germany, Netherlands, and the Middle East. And we're looking forward to introducing a business development manager here in market in India in the coming months. We are the global leader in the field of fire detector testing. No one else is doing it quite like we are. No one else is as dedicated to doing it as we are. And as I say, the Solo brand has been going for more than 25 years. And that is probably the brand that if someone said detector testing, that you think Solo. And a visual portrayal of one of those with the red poles, with the dispenser on the top. This is our standard product that most people are aware of. We're currently exporting to more than 130 countries around the world. In fact, we've won 2 Queen's Awards for export in the last 15 to 20 years. And we're expanding to try and take in more locations and make sure that our customers are using them in more locations all around the world, from commercial premises to firefighters. So what is our company really about? Well, we're passionate about innovating in our particular sector, making sure that we are the one company that is trying our very best to improve the products that are needed for safe testing and maintenance. We're ISO 9001 approved. We also have UL approval on many of our products. And as I say, that we're unrivaled in our expertise in the sector. So we have won those Queen's Awards both for enterprise and innovation. If you're wondering what the Queen's Awards are, well, they're one of the highest recognitions that are given in UK industry for both enterprise and innovation. So we've won that for exporting and also for innovating with new products when we brought our Testifier product to the market. So we're providing leading brands and solutions, and I'll take you through just a few of those. We have our Solo brand. That's the world famous one. It's the most popular range in the world, and it's used and approved worldwide. So it allows you to choose that right solution for your needs that you have with your testing. We also have Testifier, which you can see there on the right, and that's the world's leading all-in-one smoke, heat, and CO tester. It allows testing of any type of point detector, and you can even test combinations of smoke, heat, and CO with that product. We've recently brought to market a new product called Scorpion, which you can see there on the left. And this is particularly designed both for buildings with hard to access detectors, so where perhaps access is a problem, or you perhaps have something like an ASD system, where access can actually be very expensive if you were going to try and maintain and test that product. And we also have, of course, the ultimate handheld smoke detector tester, our Smoke Saver range as well. So again, building that saver in preventing that product from getting too close to the detector and avoiding potential damage and nuisance alarms. We work at the very core of the fire sector. We are the only 9001 ISO approved manufacturer of testing products. So we can give you that amazing choice of products right across our range. And as you can see there from the graphic, we work with all of the leading detector manufacturers. All of the major brands in Europe, around the world, come to us with their new detectors and say, detector testers, please, will you test the products to make sure that your testing solutions work with our detectors? So we have good relationships with all of these companies, with many of their distribution partners, and because they're UL certified, they are all supporting safe and efficient functional testing compliant with those industry codes and standards. So Testifier is probably now our flagship product. It's really designed for any detector, as it says, at any time, suitable for smoke, heat, and even CO fire detector testing. There are 2 versions of the product. The one on the left there, the Testifier 1000, that's the smaller version that can do the smoke and heat testing, while we also have the Testifier 2000, which is smoke, heat, and CO. So why should we be thinking about using Testifier? Well, the smoke is controlled in the way it's released. Because it's electronically controlled, it means that you're not going to be having any chance of putting too much smoke into that detector, which we'd think that would be quite a good thing, but no, it actually is a bad thing because it can overexpose the detector and actually contaminate it. It also has a better low temperature performance, when compared to using aerosol canisters for your smoke testing. There are two heat outputs for the heat testing element. So the normal for most point detectors, it goes up to about 90 degrees C, and that ramps up slowly so that you get the response from the heat detector when you need it. And then also, if you have a detector that needs a bit of a boost, we also have a high heat setting, and that particularly is for use with some of the Apollo detectors that are rated a little bit higher. We also have the CO version on the Testfire 2000, which means that you have on-demand generation of carbon monoxide. And again, at a safe and reasonable level, enough to set off the fire detector sensor, but not in any way to endanger the person using it. And as was mentioned in the video, it also has a clearing function. So it clears the smoke away from the detector chamber, allowing that lingering smoke to be removed, eliminating the nuisance re-alarms that can so often happen when using traditional methods or even when using aerosol cans to do your testing. We also have Solo 365, which is the new generation of our Solo brand. And again, it's everything that you would expect to have from a Solo product. So it's safe, efficient, fast, everything you need, but it also gives you some added features. So it's, as we say, it's also an electronic product. So that means that it's generating the smoke on demand rather than requiring a mechanical aerosol function. So it doesn't allow for faster testing around the site because you're only putting in the right amount of smoke for the reaction from that detector. Because it's slim, because it's lightweight in design, it means that it's simple to actually use, to handle, and it can even be put into hard to access spaces. As you can see there from the graphic on the right, we've even incorporated a small LED torch into the unit, which means that it can be used in low light areas. So some of the engineers have asked us, they're working behind false ceilings, trying to find the detector, having to use a torch. Excuse me. So we've built that into the unit, and that is light sensitive. So as soon as the unit goes into that dark area, the torch will illuminate. So it's definitely one, if you're looking for a demo of the equipment in future, have a little play with that because everybody loves that little feature. It also includes the clearing mode. So again, repeat alarms are pretty much eliminated from your testing and maintenance. Again, saving so much time and so much cost in manpower as you go around doing your testing. So that's Solo 365. So before we move on to the next slide, I was just going to ask if we could just play a little video. Perhaps I'll just pause the share for a moment. Solutions for fire testing, particularly with hard to access detectors and applications that use these. So of course, if a detector is hard to access, then in many occasions, people decide, well, maybe I won't test it. Maybe it's too difficult, so it can be ignored. Perhaps a detector behind a false ceiling, or perhaps even behind a permanent ceiling. So, of course, the standards require, and the life safety requires, that these detectors are being used in dangerous areas, so they need to be tested. And using any kind of traditional method can take time and incur a massive additional cost, as well as a lot of disruption to the people who are on that site. Some of those applications, as we mentioned, are behind in ceiling voids, top of lift shafts, in secure rooms, for example, stairwells where access is too high for our regular pulse system, and even under escalators in certain buildings. So the way that it works also is for ASD system testing, which for a long time has been a challenge for the fire industry. Aspirating smoke detection is a fantastic technology, but actually having a proper test of the transport time from the end of the pipe run down to the detector hasn't really been possible in a repeatable manner up to this point. So just one head unit is required at the end of each pipe run, and then that is remotely wired back down to a remote point in a safe location where the test can be run. So again, we also have an option with the Solo 365, as you can see there on the right, to actually have a small plastic adapter which can be used in lower lying areas of the ASD system. So let's move on to perhaps our standard product, the one that, again, most people know of, and that, of course, is Solo, the dispensers and aerosols that we use within the Solo range. So our Solo 330 dispenser is probably the most popular aerosol dispenser-based test solution in the market. It's suitable for ionization and optical smoke detectors, and we have our own range of aerosols, Solo A10, Solo A10S, and Solo A5. And all of these replace the very popular product called Solo A3, which was available up to the end of 2018. And then following a change in regulations globally, then we had to introduce new product. So you now have the three choices, which I'll talk about in a little while. Each dispenser has a lightweight swing frame construction, and it's a spring-loaded mechanical solution. So you simply insert the can into the red cup at the bottom, and then it's a mechanical solution that presses against the ceiling around the detector to allow smoke to be released into the detector chamber. So as I mentioned, we have the approved smoke aerosols from the Solo range. The Solo A10S, which is in the middle there, is the 250 ml size can. It's non-flammable solution, and it is proving to be globally the most popular can that we currently sell. We also sell A10, which is a smaller 150 ml version of the non-flammable solution. And again, that's for people perhaps who are a little more price conscious. And then we have A5, which is a 250 ml flammable version of the aerosol. But as we mentioned, all of these are UL listed, and they are all approved by manufacturers for use on their detectors. So that is very, very important. But also is important is that they're very clean. So no detector should be tested with an aerosol that contains silicones. So some of the other products on the market that you may see, they will contain silicones. And of course, that could form a barrier around the sensor, which could cause the detector to fail to react in a real life fire situation. So it's very important that approved aerosols and clean aerosols are used when testing detectors. We also have a CO testing option with the Solo 330 dispenser. So this is a non-flammable carbon monoxide can. And again, it's to be used within the dispenser chamber because it's a very low concentration of carbon monoxide, enough to test the detector, not enough to do any damage to anyone outside. And there's also a Solo C6, which is a handheld solution available for some CO life safety devices from particular manufacturers. But what about heat testing? Heat detectors are becoming more frequently used in many applications and many new buildings. In fact, they're seen as the go-to detector, and particularly where there are kitchen areas and communal areas where it's possible that steam and things like that from a kitchen area would be seen. So Solo 460 is the perfect example of the most popular standalone heat detector tester that's available in the market. It's a battery-powered tester, and it instead of just circulating heat around the detector, it actually uses the central point there. You see the little black central area in the top of the cup, and that's a heating element, and it directs a beam of heat towards the heat sensor within the detector. And that suits detectors for up to 90 degrees C. So again, the vast majority of point detectors that are currently being used in the market. It's a transparent cup, so you can see what's happening on the LED on the detector, and it's a lightweight design to make it easy for the engineer to use. We also have a mains powered tester available, but this is older technology, which is slowly being phased out as people prefer not to have trailing cables, and particularly the component costs for those kind of products now are incredibly expensive. Our famous poles, access kits, and removal tools. Well, the famous red poles, these are seen all over the world, and they're compatible with all of the Solo and Testifier range products. It allows you to have access up to 9 meters of working height. So that's the height of the person using it plus the height of the poles. We also have a new urban range, which gives you access for up to 5 meters, and I'll go into that in a little bit of time. But the point about these poles and why you should use them is that they're lightweight and non-conductive glass fiber. There's a great possibility that if you're testing smoke and heat detectors, you may be working around live electrical wiring. The idea then of using a metal pole to do the testing, giving considerable risk to the user. This is all taken away by the use of the solo pole, which are non-conductive glass fiber. We also have test and maintenance kits, so you can buy any combination of the products and have them included in one of these beautiful kit bags with pole bags. So again, a very professional look, and making sure that you have everything you need for a day's testing. And on the right, you can see our new urban kit range, particularly designed for people who are working in big city environments. So they have to try and travel light. They have to try and travel with a little bit less equipment. So we've introduced a new pole system, slightly shorter, allowing up to 4.5, 5 meters of access. Again, perfect for most commercial premises that people would be visiting. And then get still enough space in the kit bag to allow all your tools that you'll need for a day's testing. And then we come to our removal tool, which is one of the most unique products in our range. The Solo 200 has been seen as perhaps a game changer as far as removal of detectors and replacement detectors has been. It's completely universal design. So it actually fits on 99.9% of the detectors that are currently being used in the market. And it can be used at different angles, and it allows for a simple lift into place, twist the detector free, bring it down, carry out the maintenance, and then put it back into place in a reverse fashion. So again, it's an absolutely superb product. It's so good that we've tried to redesign it several times, and so far we've not come up with a better design than the one that we've got. And then finally, our the last one in our range there is Smoke Saver. This is the fire industry's leading handheld aerosol. So it's designed particularly for engineers to be using. Perhaps if they have their Solo product, then they can have a can of Smoke Saver in the back pocket. And again, just in case there's a detector that they need to reach that perhaps the Solo product can't get to. It's a unique design. So you can see there clearly the saber that's attached to the top of that can. Why have we done that? Well, in many occasions when people are using handheld aerosols, they will spray directly into the detector sensor. So what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is that not only the smoke that's coming out from that can, but also the propellant gas is coming out from that can and going directly into the detector sensor. Again, this can cause buildup of residues. It can cause a barrier to be formed. And again, we don't want anything to be done to that detector that causes it to work less well than it should. So the saber is a unique design, and as the smoke is drawn up through that saber, the propellant gas dissipates, and only the smoke particles that we designed to go into that detector reach the detector chamber. Again, it's detector manufacturer approved. It's fully compliant with the regulations that we see around the world, and it provides you with a fast detector activation without any silicone and no harmful residue. Again, there are options, the standard 150ml can or the smaller 100ml can if cost is a particular issue. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. I'd like to say thank you very much for your attention during that. And now all I need to do is to end the slideshow and hand you back to Dominic so that we can carry on with the Q&A, I think.
Yeah. Wonderful presentation. Very, deep insight on the various product range that we have, whether it is a heat detector, multi-sensor, smoke sensor. And what is good in what I could see, you have a testing method for even aspiration system. So that's a very, we not come across any testing tool for the aspiration. And you have for CO and CO2 gas detector, you have complete range of testing equipment for various type of detector. So it's very unique, I would say. And some of the building that we have in India, we have over 5,000 detectors. Somebody has 3,500 detectors. So it's Hercules task someone to take the ladder on each detector to go and maintain. One example that I would say, the hospital in Tamil Nadu called CMC, there are almost 10,000 detectors. So how do you maintain a 10,000 detector? You could see our maintenance engineer carrying a ladder and putting up and climbing the ladder, taking the jute box and giving the smoke. I don't know. It's impossible, a Hercules task to maintain, 5,000 detector, 10,000 detector. So only way to make sure that system does work and it is required is to have a right tool or a right kit that the facility has it. As we evaluate our standards and codes in various states, it is becoming evident that the law and the codes are changing. And I'm sure very soon we'll have the testing method of smoke detector included in the National Building Code of India. How do we test the smoke detector? And it's criminal for someone to switch off the fire alarm system because there is a nuisance alarm that is coming in. It could be, a man-made, purpose to switch off, or is it because of the dust accumulated, or it's a wrong detector in the right place? So many things to happen, and I'm sure such knowledge that you're bringing in, I'm sure the delegates or people who are attending will have some enlightenment. And there is a great demand for such product where we don't need to use a ladder or a stool to climb up to the detector. The simple pole testing devices will be so useful to all of our engineers. So we have good questions. So ladies and gentlemen who are listening to me, you have questions. I know you have many questions to ask. Do not put it in the chat box because chat box, reading the question in the chat box is quite tough. There is a Q&A box below in the screen. So just type your questions in the Q&A and let the question be very relevant to the subject that we are covered on the how to test smoke detector, the challenges in testing smoke detector. Okay, so please post your questions in the Q&A. I will take it. So avoid putting question in the chat box. It will be difficult for us to keep track on the question. So I will go to the first question from my friend Ramakant Sharma, who's very passionate and he attend every webinar that I conduct. In fact, he has his own safety group which he broadcasted our webinar. And what he says is, in his hospital, there are over 3,500 detector. So what are the feasibility of your product that can help Ramakant Sharma to maintain? So,
yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that question, Ramakant. That's a really good one. So I think particularly for things like hospitals, the last thing that you want is things like incense sticks and perhaps non-approved aerosols that can be, you want that to be as quick and easy and clean as possible in those areas. So I think certainly using Solo with the dispenser and the pole and our aerosol is going to speed up the testing process and is certainly very feasible for testing in hospitals. It can be used very quickly. You're not getting in the doctors and nurses' way. The most important thing about a hospital is that people get well. And so we don't want our test equipment to be getting in people's way. So yeah, definitely it's a feasible product for that.
So Ramakant, they have a large distribution network in India. They have the distributor center in all across the cities. I'm sure when you have a requirement, you can either text me or you can tell me. I could ask any of the stockist or the distributor to come and show you the equipment. So Detector Tester has a strong presence in India through distributor network. So it is not that you need to wait for the product off the shelf, you get it, and it has a manual which can tell you how to do the testing. So Kedar Khainer is asking, sir, can available test fire 101 and 001 in India? I didn't understand the question. Hope Martin can answer.
Yeah, I think you've just answered that. It is widely available. If you want it, we can supply it. We're very happy to do that. And as I say, if you come back to Dominic and request a list of stockists in your particular area, we can find you the best local source.
Wonderful. So, my Thani is asking, how can we use said detector for tester installed above the fall ceiling?
Yes. So that's another great question. Thank you, Sadia. So I know when I've seen it happen in our own office where we have detectors installed in the roof void. So the engineers will come along, they will simply remove one of the panels, and then they can extend the pole system up into the roof void. And again, using the Solo 365 with the LED torch, that would be a great benefit to you. You'll be able to find that detector, and then it should be wired back down to the remote LED, so that once the test has been done, you can see the response on that remote LED.
So you mean to say, Martin, you're saying even the detector above the falsing can be tested?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it happens in every building back in the UK.
Wonderful. Okay. What is the best temperature to be set for a fire detector in bulk alcohol storage facility?
That was probably that's probably outside my field of expertise. You're best to contact the manufacturer of the detector to get their advice on that. I wouldn't be qualified to give you the answer for that one. Sorry.
Well, Keda is asking, can you have the test kit for the smoke and heat? Yes, of course. Martin has already answered. You let us know, where you want, and our distributor can reach and give you the kit. And it's available off the shelf in any city of India. So, Arvind Kamath, is it suitable for any make of detector?
Okay.
Martin.
So yes, it's suitable for any make of fire point type fire detectors. So as you say, I think the next question sort of takes this in from Arvind, doesn't it, Dominic? So you don't see Cooper in the list. Well, no, we couldn't include everybody. There are a number of manufacturers in that graphic, but yeah, we do work with Cooper. Just to give you a little bit of insight into our company, our current CEO is a former manager of Cooper Eaton. So he was actually in that business. So he's now with us. So yeah, Cooper, it works very well, and we have a lot of business with them as well.
I think most of the brands that are there in India are suitable for the test kit, and I don't see any detector that will not. Again, Ijaz is asking, detector removal suitable for FSP 951 series. Yeah. Yes. So, Arvind, Ijaz, hope you got the answer here. Wonderful. Then we have Suraj is asking, how many detectors will be tested from 250 ml aerosol bottle?
Superb question, Suraj. Thank you for that. And I think also Pragnesh next, and I'm sure there's a few others down there in the list who've asked that question.
Yeah, Pragnesh also is asking the same thing. How many detectors can be tested?
Yeah. So on what we say is it can vary. It can vary widely. And that is really dependent on the detector, the brand, the environment in which it's installed, the condition of the detector as well. So what we say is, when we've done the testing in our laboratory back in the UK, nice clean environment, brand new, let's say an Apollo XP95, then you get an alarm within 10 to 15 seconds using the Solo A10, Solo A10S, Solo A5. That's the average. So if that was the case, in a 250 ml can, you could get between 300 and 350 tests from each can. So again, that's the standard, the very highest level of quality that you can get. And it varies greatly depending on how you're getting on with the market in the actual outside in the testing, the environment of the detector, and whether or not it's actually responding. So yeah, it can be very, but let's say 300 to 350 if you've got great detectors.
Oh, 300, 350 on average that can be tested. And Vinod Kumar is a good question. Even I would like, is there any method to test a beam detector through any of your kit?
Yeah, again, this is something that we're yet to really explore with our test solutions. Currently, beam detectors are getting a lot more popular. Certainly in some industrial applications, and we have good contact with companies like FFE and the Firebeam company in the UK, as well, of course, there's other manufacturers. But at the present time, it's best to ask the manufacturer about those solutions, what you should do to test it properly to make sure it's working, because at the moment, unfortunately, we don't have a solution for that.
No, they do have a testing method because being from systems and service sold good number of beam detector in the market. So it's quite simple. Today, I have a reflector which comes back, and there are the testing method which is mentioned in the manual. Not quite a difficult challenge to test the beam detector. But of course, the height of the beam detector, the accessibility is one big challenge that we have in India. So Vinod Kumar, Pradeep is asking, can you get heat tested battery buttons separately?
Yes, yeah, we do sell them as separates, so they can be bought as spare parts. Sometimes people buy an extra one, so we provide 2 with every kit. So each heat detector tester kit that you buy would have a charger and 2 battery batons, so you can charge one while you're using the other. But if you want to buy a 3rd one, it would be beyond my responsibility to say that you can do that. So please do.
Yeah, Vinod has a few questions. So what about the EST, Edward detector? Can be tested? Yes.
The EST detector, yes, we can test it, but I think, Vinod, you're talking about the removal tool here, aren't you? So yeah, EST is one of the 0.1% I was mentioning that you have to actually ask EST for their own removal tool, because like you say, they have an actual button that you have to lock and disconnect before you can remove it. But once the button's removed, then you can still use the Solo 200. In fact, we have engineers who do that. I think also Siemens have a detector that has a locking system. So again, it's up to, if they put a lock on it, it's up to the manufacturer then to come up with a solution to remove that. Because obviously 99.9% of detectors don't have it. So it's at the moment is, please talk to EST and say, come on, let's have a little button removal tool that we can work on.
What's the maximum height? You can reach. Is it 12 meters? What is the height maximum? Yeah.
So the maximum height that we recommend with the pulse system is 9 meters. We have had a few people try it go a little bit higher, but by the point that you are getting, you're basically having the main pole and adding extensions. So each time you add an extension, the other thing you add is flexibility. So at 9 meters, it takes a little bit of practice to get the removal tool working, for example. I know it took me a little while to get it when I was demoing with customers. But beyond that, it then becomes very difficult. And certainly with some of our, let's say, the heavier product, Testifier, which is more bulky, then we don't recommend you go beyond 9 meters to use that.
So Bhavesh is asking, can you share the specification or the standard required for testing? Of course, Bhavesh, I will be sharing to all the people who are attending the specification or the tool, the requirement for testing. So I will be sharing that, Bhavesh. And where can I buy from India? India, all major cities, there are people who are selling, and you can reach me anytime and I can guide you. Or you can reach Martin, who can probably forward to the nearest distributor in the city. So can I use at home and cost? Yes, of course, you can use as long as there is a detector and it's compatible, you can test anywhere. So I'm sure that most of the apartment has a smoke detector in their apartment, and maybe 2 or 3 detectors, because you can use it. Or each floor, guys can combine and have a one tester for each floor. You can, test it and buy it. Possible. Everything is possible. How to test detector install above false ceiling? I think Samir, that answer is already given by Martin. We don't need to repeat that. Then let me go to false ceiling. Gururaj, is it only testing and cleaning the detector? Anything else that can do?
Okay, so it's primarily designed to help you test and maintain your detectors. So with regard to cleaning, you would need, if you have a problem with a detector where it's not responding, then take that detector head down and then start work on it, because you want to make sure that if there is a problem, then you do something about that to make sure that the area is safe. But yeah, this is the reason we're making products to help people with testing and maintenance of the fire detectors.
So Nick is asking, can I have the presentation that you made? Of course, everybody will get the recorded presentation of Martin in your mailbox through a link. Bhavesh, yes, if you go to YouTube, just type detector tester, continuous detector tester. There are a huge amount of video they have on various type of testing, some testimonials and all that. There's a training module. So just go to YouTube, just type detector tester. It's a continuous, no gap in it. So just type detector tester videos. So you'll get Hazar and you can follow them. And whenever there's an upgradation, follow the link and you'll get updates on that. Solo smoke detector available with us. Okay, that's wonderful. Good that you're a customer of Solo. Now, Nick, can you send to, yes, Nick, can you just share it to me on the mail ID? So I will send you the technical specification very soon. And Pratnesh, testing detector with aerosol A110, yes, is how much minimum time for detector operating? It's a very interesting question. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, as I was mentioning earlier, it will depend on that detector. If it's in its prime condition, brand new on the ceiling, then you should expect a response within 10 to 15 seconds. Some detectors go a bit longer, but it should be no more than 30 seconds. But we always say, don't just keep pumping smoke into the detector and hope for a faster alarm. Because one thing that will happen if you put too much smoke in, then you're going to take longer to reset it. So anytime you save getting that alarm, you're actually going to lose plus minutes and minutes afterwards with the reset times. Recently, if you go to an exhibition, any fire exhibition, we all love fire exhibitions, and the noises and the sirens all going off every 5 seconds. But even when people were testing with our product on the stand, they were putting the smoke into the detector and having to reset every 5-10 seconds, and they just had to keep it going. So keep the amount of smoke to what's labeled on the can and on the instructions, and then it should go off within 30 seconds and you'll get a faster reset time as well, and keep your entire testing time down to a minimum.
Hey, Balan, you're asking, please, I'm sure you have shown a lot of interest to become a distributor in Chennai, and you become a Chennai distributor. I'm sure you get all the information. You are representing detector tester, of course. You will get all those information. Of course, if you need it, I can send it. I think you're meeting Martin tomorrow. Okay, Satish Kumar, each detector testing, do we need to reset the fire alarm system?
Okay, and again, it will depend on the manufacturer brand of the panel, whether it has test modes, whether it has particular requirements for resetting. So again, go to the manufacturer instructions, test it in accord with what the manufacturer is recommending, because and they will help you, will guide you through what you'll need to do with the actual panel.
Oh, Ulas's question, let me try to understand. Can universal detector tester be used for all type of detector? Yes, you can use it. Do we need detector to disconnect and remove from the installation, or without disconnect can be tested?
Okay, again, that will depend on the fire system in particular. Yeah, the idea is you don't want to just spray smoke into the system and set the alarm off and have to evacuate a building. I mean, that would be ridiculous. So again, follow the manufacturer's requirements for the testing of that particular system. Use our tools to carry out the test, and you're going to get a great job done.
Yeah, Niranjan, the question of 250 ml aerosol canister, how many that we already answered. Average, it says average 300 to 350 detector that we already answered the question. Pragnesh, magnet test, is it right or wrong?
It's neither. I'm not going to, I don't judge people for doing a magnet test. Absolutely not. I mean, we even, for system sensor, we even help them with a connector tool for our poles to use the magnet test. The magnet test is important for the electronics of the detector. Very important for the electronics. The panel tests are very important for the electronics of the detector. You have to know that the electronics are connecting with the panel to cause the actual alarm that will go then to the sounders and enable you to evacuate the building. The reason that you need to put smoke into the tester or into the detector is to prove that the sensor will react to real life fire stimulus. So a magnet is not a real life fire. Only putting the synthetic smoke, and we've made it clean, we've made it simple, we've made it as easy as we can, that really proves that should a real fire occur, and we hope it never would, but should a real fire occur, that sensor will go off and you can evacuate the people and save your building.
So it's a two different function. Magnet using it's a different function, and solar testing is completely it's actually simulate the entire smoke fire. Is there a device to test both heat and smoke? Of course, so you have multi-sensor that can be tested. That's already said possible. So the same tool can be used. Abhijit Gaikwad, sir, do we have durability constraint so that we can use inner alloy factor?
Yeah, these are all good questions, but I like this one, Abhijit. It's very good. Yeah, so durability constraints. We get accused of making it making the product a little bit too well. Solo dispensers and poles last a long time. We give a limited lifetime warranty on those products. So non-electrical products in the Solo range have a limited lifetime warranty, which is effectively a 7-year warranty. So you can imagine that the return on investment on that is very, very quick. You're over that sort of period, you're not going to have to replace it every 3 months. The one thing, of course, you are going to need to replace is the consumable. So if you're using Solo, you need to replace the aerosol can, smoke saver, the aerosol, and also if you're using Testifier, then the smoke capsules and cartridges that go in those products. So the consumables are the only additional costs that you're going to have once you purchase the kit.
So Jivanathan is asking, is it right to use laser light to test the detector?
Right. Again, this is more to do with testing the electronic response as opposed to testing the real life fire response. So Jitan, that's a great question, because I know a lot of people are doing laser tests. But again, if you're going to go and follow the standards and actually do real fire testing and smoke detector testing, you need to introduce smoke stimulus. So please, if you want to keep doing your laser testing, but introduce that smoke testing as well.
Thank you. Hula, so can the detector tested be in hazardous areas? Yes.
Okay. So in hazardous areas, yeah, most products require ATEX certification, so they have to be explosion proof. The idea of introducing an electrical spark into maybe a petroleum or gas installation, not a good thing. So unfortunately, none of our products are ATEX certified at this point. So it's something that people ask us about, and it's something that we have to consider the cost of doing at present, because some of the systems that are going into those ATEX proof areas are quite a lot more advanced than just a standard point detector. We haven't been able to move in that direction, but certainly if the number of times that people ask about it, I keep mentioning it to our board of directors and saying, maybe have another look. But keep watching for us in the future doing that. But right now, unfortunately, no.
Okay, Mohammed is asking a very interesting question. If you use these kits, can we have a control on the amount of smoke released from the solar tester, or we will inject more gas or more heat to the detector, which might damage the detector?
Right. So, so we're talking about the Solo testing here. Okay. So with Testifier and Solo 365, it's not possible to damage the detector because it's a controlled release. You only release a certain amount of smoke and then the detector alarms. With the Solo aerosol can, if you're using it in the dispenser, it is possible to overdose the detector, but then that is the responsibility of the user. So as I say, follow the instructions on the can, follow the instructions on the product safety data sheet. All it requires is a single 1-second burst of the aerosol. Then that should be left to just circulate around just as the smoke would in a real fire, and then allow the detector to sense it and go into alarm. Don't try and force it, because if you do put too much in, not only could you have a build-up of residue, but you're also extending the amount of time that it takes to get the reset done. And that wastes time for you as the engineer and for your teams. So again, be careful with it. Use it as is instructed. Don't try and rush it, because if you do it right, it's just as quick as if you do it wrong. So yeah, be careful with that. And with regard to the heat tester, no, there's no chance of you overheating the detector. I know we've seen in years past people using hair dryers, heat guns, and melting the plastics on the detector itself. The Solo 460 and the Testifier units have an inbuilt safety system. So there's an automatic cutoff when it reaches a certain temperature, the max temperature of 90 degrees C, or if it's been running for 2 minutes, then it will automatically cut off as well, because obviously there's something wrong with the detector. It's not responding to the heat, and it needs to be maintained. So yeah, again, we've built in a safety concern with our heat testers as well.
Wonderful. Ijaz Ahmad is asking, the existing smoke detectors are installed in room voids and the area is blocked by ducts, which means there is no access. In this case, Scorpion or remote tester can be utilized. And how? Is it possible to install the Scorpion remote after the completion of the project?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I'd have a word with whoever the designer of the system was in that occasion. I think the idea of putting smoke detectors that are blocked by ducts, or maybe there is enough space and you can't get the pole round. So yes, in those hard to access situations, installing a Scorpion head next to that detector means that you can then wire that back down to a remote point and operate the test from the ground. So yeah, a great idea. Definitely, it would be a perfect one for Scorpion, that. And yes, it can be installed afterwards. Obviously, you then have to gain access to install it. So we always say if you can install it at the beginning of the project when the system is going into the building, that's the perfect time. But if you have the ability to then go and retrofit it, then we'd recommend doing that as well, because it really would improve the fact that you are now testing all of those detectors, which apparently wouldn't be tested otherwise.
So Pragnesh, another question, what is the using difference and reason for testing aerosol for flammable and non-flammable for different areas?
Okay, so this is more of a sort of a legacy issue, really. I mean, we always recommend using a non-flammable aerosol, because anything that reduces the chance of fire when you're doing fire detector testing is a good thing. But there are limited uses of a flammable version as well. Some people prefer the flammable version, which uses butane propane as its propellant. So yeah, the only thing is safety. If you are conscious of safety and you really want to use the best product for the job, then Solo A10S. And we see that all around the world, that most people, excuse me, prefer a 250 ml non-flammable can. So yeah, but you have the option. We introduced the option at the time, and that's probably more to do with the cost of the gases that are involved, because when we had to change the propellants in 2018, and not to bore everyone with the legality of it all, but it became that there was only one propellant, non-flammable propellant gas that's viable for use. So that has to be used, and that's very expensive to actually procure and actually manufacture. So we also introduced a lower cost propane butane solution, which people can choose if they like.
Okay, what is do you have any standards or maintenance procedure available with you?
Yeah, so we used to have a product in our range called Solo A7, which was basically an air duster, a can of propellant gas that blew air through the detector. Again, unfortunately, when the propellant gas laws changed, the propellant that could be used was so expensive that it just wasn't viable commercially for us to produce it anymore. But there are still products in the market. Our partners in the US have a product called Blowout, SDI Blowout. And again, it's just a can of gas that you can squirt into the detector, and it's just clear air that blows away the dust and the dirt, so that you can then check if that was the problem with any detector that wasn't working. Oh, you're muted again, Dominic, sorry.
Right. So now can we verify functionality of the tester?
Right.
How do you,
Yeah. So this is what our whole product range is about. It's verifying the functional nature of that detector to prove smoke can go in or heat goes in and the sensor reacts. So that's why our products are so useful. You're introducing proper smoke to that detector in a clean and safe and quick way that will then prove that the detector works. That's what function is all about. So yeah, that's you're proving the function of that sensor.
somebody is asking, is there any standard or regulation regarding disposal or requirement of detector? If it is ionization, you know the BRC circular. In India, we have a circular, and it's all available on the Google. You can just type it will tell you how to dispose the ionization detector. If it is heat and the multi-sensor or optical detector, the standard, again, those are available very easily on the Google platform. Pradeep, any tool for probe type heat detector test?
Okay, yeah, so these are usually, the probes are usually rated a lot higher. So some can be sort of 150, 200, even higher degrees Celsius. So we're mainly focused on point type detectors. So the majority of which are rated anywhere between 40 and 60. I know there are variances on that. So that's what we're aiming at. For the probes, then it's definitely talk to people like Fenwal who are manufacturing. Ask the manufacturer, what should I be using for a test on this? And they will give you the guidance that you need.
Another couple of questions. Vincent is asking, do this canister have an expiry date?
Yes, okay. So we give a standard 12-month warranty on each can. The can itself is contents under pressure, so it's pressurized. So there is always a possibility of some leakage. But as long as the canister has been transported and stored in accord with the requirements that are on the SDS and the can label, so within the right temperature requirements, no higher than 50 degrees C, no lower than 0 degrees C, then they are usually, we've had customers who had them on their shelf for 2-3 years without any problem. The thing about the aerosols is once you start testing with them, you're getting a lot of testing done, and you're going to get through the cans very, very quickly. So shelf life comes up as an interesting question, but in practical nature of it, it really isn't a problem. As long as you rotate your stock, if you have stock of it, make sure you use the oldest can first, etc., etc. But yeah, and it should be fine for 2-3 years.
So again, Pragnesh Prajapati is asking, repeatedly using aerosol, every week or every month. I don't think anybody do that every week and a month, once in a quarter. But anyway, taking into account, does it affect the sensitivity of the detector?
Well, I think if you overdose any detector like that, it could do that. But I think, Pragnesh, it's good to look at what's required by the standards. So as Dominic said, I don't think anybody is doing that every week. Some people are doing it every month, maybe 3 months. Most people are doing 6 months. Some people are doing it every year. So obviously you have to have them all tested every year. So just make sure that you work out your maintenance contract to make sure that you're not doing the same detector every single time you come along. But yeah, so yeah, try and just keep the national standard.
If the detectors are in the clean room, dust-free area, you can do it once in a year. If the detector are polluted area where you're expecting dust and all that, yes, once in a month or once in a quarter will be advisable. But we don't detect, when you have 10,000, we don't do the entire 10,000 detector. It depends on the area that you have positioned the detector. So Jai, Basha is asking, is there any maintenance or calibration required for this kit?
Again, great question. No, there's no real maintenance required for the solo range particularly. We always say if you're perhaps having trouble seeing because obviously there's a lot of dirt and dust that can get into the detector cup. So we say just wipe it with a soft cloth and some clean water, get it clean so that you can actually see what you're doing. With regard to some of the other products, the heat detector testers and testifier, no, we've tried to build them so that you don't need to do any recalibration. Once they're out there in the field, you should be able to carry on using them for as long as you can. So nothing is required from our side.
So the standard duration for testing of smoke detector, I think I've answered to you, Madhav, average we do once in a quarter. And again, it depends on where have we positioned the detector, on what kind of condition of the environment which detector is located. Mohammed is asking, does NFPA standard states that maintenance of detector shall be done every quarterly by certified firefighting specialist?
Okay, that I would have to check. I wouldn't like to go yes or no. I mean, it sounds, Mohammed, that you have a fairly good grasp of what the NFPA standard 70 is. So it's NFPA 72, which is something that's used globally. And I think the IS 2189 is very close to the wording on that. But yeah, again, check the standard. Make sure that you know what you should be doing as the responsible person. Certainly in the UK, it's something that's very, very key with fire safety maintenance, is that the building owner and the person testing have to be responsible for what they're doing. And we're going to see that coming in more and more in India over the coming years. So yeah, responsibility is going to be a big thing. And knowing what you're doing and using the right tools is going to be absolutely imperative for everyone.
So in India, we do not have any licensing engineer is licensed to maintain or clean the detector. Here, anybody and everybody, electrician also does it. But in certain country, yes, you cannot test the fire alarm unless you have the license to maintain. So it depends on which country. In India, definitely, you do not have any standard to test. Anybody can test as long as it's been trained. Again, as you said, it's the end user and the contractor with whom you sign. You can have a test certified engineer, or would say, solo certified engineer to test the detector. That could be possibility soon. I'm sure Martin will roll out certain certification program for the engineer who can test, solo trained engineer. We will come back to you on that. We will run this program. Who can test the smoke detector? Yes, we will have some certification program. Those who are certified are authorized. That's how I would put it across. And last question, Navdeep, in which market the device is available? It's available Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, Ahmedabad. You name the city, this device is available. In case you don't get it, contact me. My mail ID is already there. I am responsible to develop this market. As I said, fire alarm has been my passionate subject since almost 30 years. Educating, creating awareness of use of fire alarm system. When we started, it was only conventional detector. Today, people are moved to intelligent and addressable. So it's evolving, continuous evolvement is there. And maintenance, ultimately, whatever, whether it is your four-wheeler, vehicle, anything that you do, ultimately the performance of the system is all depends how well you maintain. So maintenance is what gives you life for the product. It doesn't, you just have a small alarm system on the detector. It doesn't mean that your facility is safe. It needs to be maintained. You maintain the way it has to be. No client, if you heard, they are there in the business since 1965. 1 year, probably I was born in 1964, but it's there since many years, 50, 55 years, 57 years. They are technology evolving and they are there. They expert the world largest test kit and a smoke test kit manufactured in the world. So I'm sure they know the subject. They know what to, how to equip the engineer to maintain the detector. With this, ladies and gentlemen, we are almost touching 1 hour, 30 minutes of presentation, question, answer. As I said, this is just a beginning. We started this education awareness program. We all need to come together and ensure that end user is aware of this product, the maintenance kit for the smoke detector. You have to ensure that every project that comes within the market have specified the requirement of the test kit. It is you and me can change the way fire alarm system is maintained in India. So why not we, India, become a role model to the rest of the country and say we maintain? I'm now saying 60% of the fire alarm in the country doesn't work. Let's reverse this in the next 2-3 years. 80, 90 to 95% of the fire alarm system in the country does work. It's my responsibility and your responsibility to make that happen. I'm sure Martin will enjoy the Indian market and he has a great expectation. And we're all here to support Martin, the journey to make every building safe and secure. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful to have you. And we have your email ID. We will keep on giving you more and more information. And I want to thank Martin once again for sparing this valuable time in his busy schedule, visiting all over. And thank you very much, Martin. One last remark from you about India.
Yeah, well, thank you very much again, Dominic, for hosting us and our company here. Thank you all very much for attending and listening and waiting while I dealt with my technical issues as well. I'm very much looking forward to working with the India market, and I think that we can keep improving things and making everything safer and making everything better for the people of India. And that's certainly something that I'm looking forward to doing. So thank you all very, very much for your time.
Thank you. God bless you. Have a great week. Thank you. Bye-bye.